Right, so let's continue. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So here's the thing. Rumi is giving us a, a reality check that look, apparently, if you see the board, you will see three things. Okay, so I'm going to use the red color now. So you have lover, then you have love, then you have beloved. Okay, now beloved is using a different color now. This is source, right? Source of everything. Source, right? I refer to it as source because that's more universal, but it's actually, for our context, it will be Allah. Now, I want you to understand the word Allah, right? Allah in Arabic does not mean anything. It does not have a meaning, right? It's not derived from any other word, okay? Some people may disagree with me and say that the word Allah comes from the word ilah, right? So, aliha, ya'lahu, ilahan. And then if we drop the alif stay, ilah becomes Allah. And then you join the two lams, you get Allah. And because the two lams are coming together, so we need to make tafkhim. So we make it thick, so it becomes Allah, right? And the ha in the end is for what you call, for respect, or you can say it is for ta'zim, right? That is one explanation of it, but that's not the real explanation of the word Allah, okay? So I'm going to explain to you the word Allah so you understand where everything is going. So the word Allah here, I'm explaining here, using the highlighter now. So in Arabic, if you break down the word Allah, right? So you got alif lam, then you got la, then you got ha. Okay, so al, la, ha. So highlighter, this ha here does not exist in the original word. The ha is added for ta'zim or for respect. Okay, so if we drop the ha, if we drop this ha here, what are we left with? The actual word is al, and la. Now, I want you to analyze what is al and what is la. So alif lam in Arabic is used for ta'rif, right? Something definite, something you want to define something. So you put alif lam before it. For example, kitabun is a book, right? Any book. If you want to specify the book, you add alif lam before it. Al-kitab, the book. Now it is specified. Then you add an ismul ishara to it, hadha al-kitab. Then it becomes more specific, this specific book, right? That's what alif lam is used for. Alif lam is used for ta'rif. Mu'arraf bil lam, that in Nahu you have learned all these things. That mu'arraf bil lam, right? Lam ta'rif. Alif lam li ta'rif. Now here, alif lam is for ta'rif al. So if we take away al of ta'rif and we drop the ha, which is for ta'zim, what we are left with is La. So now the actual word Allah is actually La. Okay? Now, if we add lam ta'rif to la, la means nothing, right? Nothing. Okay. La is negating everything negative, right? Nothing. So nothing means that it's not anything that you can understand because it's nothing, right? The word itself says nothing. So let's define the word and give it lam ta'rif. When we add alif lam to la, we get Allah, the nothing. Okay. Now, when you say the nothing, you also saying the everything, because the nothing is actually the everything, right? Because everything comes from nothing. Okay, nothing is the asl, and then comes something, right? Let me make you understand this point a little better. So imagine I'm speaking to you right now. What's giving existence to my words that I'm talking and conveying to you? It is nothing, right? It is the silence that is between my words, that is dividing my words, dividing my sentences, that is allowing you to pick up and give meaning to my words and understand my words as something that exists. Now, if I just keep quiet, that silence is nothing. So the silence is always there. La is always there. And La is the thing that gives existence to other things, right? So if you take away silence from my words, if now I start joining my words without any silence in between, if I just start speaking like so if I take out all the spaces between my words cannot exist, right? So my words require silence, which is nothing, for the words, which is something, to exist. Okay? I'll give you another example, right? So take a room, for example. Let me draw it out. Here you have a room. The room has walls and let's say windows and some furniture, etc. Now, this is what we call space, right? So this room is getting the space because of nothing, right? So if I take away these walls and I take away these windows and I take away this table and I take away this whole structure, space is still there, right? Space is what allowed the walls and the windows and the doors and the furniture to exist. If you take away space from the room, then there is nothing, right? So space is actually nothing. Now, in more complex terms, I can tell you that if you look at the world right now, how it is, okay, and you take an electron microscope and you put it on your eyes, take an electron microscope and put it on your eyes. So you have a vision of the electron microscope on your eyes right now. when you look with the electron microscope and you look at everything around you, the walls, the trees, the sand, the buildings, the structures, right? Everything around you, right? The humans, everything just looks like atoms. So the tree is no longer a tree. The tree is just a collection of atoms. That's all you can see. The wall is no longer a wall. It's just a collection of atoms. The human is no longer a human. All you can see is atoms, because the electron microscope shows you the reality of things, which is actually one and the same, right? It's our vision that gives us a different view of things. In actual fact, everything is nothing, or everything is the same, or everything is just connected with each other, right? Through, you can see the connection of love. Okay? So if you look from an electron microscope, you will not see any walls, you will not see any animals, you will not see any cars, you will not see any roads, you will not see any trees, you will not see any humans, you won't even see yourself. You will only see atoms, right? Atoms of energy and just particles of everything. So that is the reality that the electron microscope shows you. Now, coming back to the room analogy. So this room, what's giving this room a chance to exist is the space that is around it. Okay? So the walls are getting a chance to exist because of space, right? Because space is allowing the walls to exist. If there was no space, if nothing wasn't there, something couldn't exist, right? So if you take away the walls and you take away the windows and the everything that is there, space is still there. It always was, it is, and always will be, because that is nothing, right? Okay. Another way to understand is, take a balloon, right? Go in one room, blow air in that balloon, right? So now you have, the balloon is full of air. Now take that balloon out of the house and bust it, right? So when you bust it, what happens? All the air disappears. Now my question to you is, the air that you release from the balloon outside and the air that you collected in the room, is it different? Or is it the same? In reality, it is the same. Air and space and all this, what I'm talking about, is actually nothing, right? So nothing is giving a chance for everything to exist. Everything can exist because there is nothing, okay? So because there is silence, that's why you can hear my words. Silence is allowing you to hear my words. Space between my words is allowing you, is what's giving you a chance to understand and to live the experience of the words that I'm conveying to you right now. Okay? So nothing is the space between things. Nothing is what allows things to exist, right? And what gives a chance for things to exist. So if you take away all the spaces, space is still there always, right? It's what allows you to exist and to bring about anything that you want to bring into existence, right? Now, coming back to, where's the highlighter? Coming back to this word here, Allah. So, al is for lam ta'rif, ha is for ta'zim. We drop that, and we drop that, and we're left with la. Now, when we construct this word, Allah means the nothing. What does that mean? The nothing is actually the everything. That's why I like to refer to it as absolute. So Allah, I call him the absolute because he is nothing, yet he is everything. All right. Now let's go to what Rumi is trying to tell us. So Rumi, according to Rumi, he says, lover, love, and beloved are all one thing, right? So beloved Ma'shuq is the source. It's because of the beloved that love exists. And it is love that is inside the lover. So in actual fact, lover, love do not exist. It's only the beloved that actually exists. He is the source. He is the absolute. He is everything. Yet he is nothing. So the one who is nothing is actually the absolute, the everything. Right? So that's why Rumi says, lover is just a veil. You think you exist, right? Because your fake ego or your fake personality has given you a fake illusion that you are separate, right? That you exist on your own. In actual fact, the lover is just a veil. He is just veiled by his own mind, by his own thoughts, by his own fake personality and ego that society has given him and built for him. In actual fact, all that is a lie. When you look at it with the reality, with the eyes of reality, the lover does not exist. Now, if the lover doesn't exist, so automatically love also doesn't exist. Because lover is the one who loves. If lover is not there, love is also not there. If these two are not there, then what are we left with? We're left with only the beloved. So in actual fact, the beloved is all there is. The beloved is love. The beloved is the lover also. Right? Now, we come to the same discussion where we have over here on one side, we have Ruh, use blue, Ruh, and you have on the other side, source. Also, I refer to as absolute. We know him as Allah, right? Now, Allah, call him Allah, call him Rahman, call him God, call him whatever you may want. فله الأسماء الحسنى قل ادعوا الله أو ادعوا الرحمن. Say Allah, say Rahman. By whichever name you want to call him, فله الأسماء الحسنى. All beautiful names belong to him. all the names belong to Allah, right? Belong to the Absolute, the Source. He is nameless, right? You can't give him a name. The name is just for us to understand, for our understanding. In reality, there is no name, right? Because name is just something that our mind creates for us to understand and make sense of reality. When in actual fact, you need to experience reality. You cannot give it names. You cannot understand it through words and through names and all these things, right? So, source, absolute, Allah. Then you have here Ruh, and you can say below it, make the writing a bit smaller here. Body. What else you have? Mind. And I like to say ego. So when you actually look at what's going on here, I'm going to use red. So we know that the ego is false. It's made up by the product of the mind, right? And the mind has collected the data of the ego from what the senses have told him, right? From what people have told him. So whatever people have told him is what the mind has collected from the childhood and has grown up and made an ego and a false personality of himself, right? So that means the ego itself is false. The mind's data is all false because it is all gathered and nothing of its own. It's all what people told you and what society have told you and what you have collected over time. Then what remains is the body. Now the body, we know there was a time where it never exists, and there is a time it will not exist anymore, right? So the body is just temporary. So if you identify yourself with any of these, if you say you are the body, you are the mind, or you are the ego, you are a personality, you are a human, you are a whatever you may identify yourself with, that identity is false, right? Because you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the ego. Then that only leaves us with one thing, and that is ruh, that is spirit. Now here is where science is lost, and science cannot guide you from here, right? From here, only spirituality can take you ahead, because science has failed over here and has failed to understand spirit because they just can't see it. It's to them, it doesn't exist because it's not in their senses. And it's true. You can't sense it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, you can't look at it, right? It's not in your senses. So the spirit is non-local. Had it not been for the Quran, we would never have known what the spirit is, right? The Quran is the one that tells us what is ruh. The Quran tells us that the Absolute had an Amr. The Amr was kun, and the manifestation was nafkh, through nafkh. And after that nafkh came ruh. So the Absolute is the highlighter now. So the Absolute, whenever he decided, we don't know, only he knows, he decided to give a command, kun, and the command manifested as his breath, nafkh, right? And that breath gave existence to ruh. Okay? Now, if you want, you can say the ruh is the nafkh. You can say the ruh is the amr. You can say the ruh is kun. Or you can say the ruh is the beloved himself, manifesting himself through the body, through the human experience that you are having right now. So it's the absolute that is expressing himself through you, right? And the Quran makes very much sense of this. There are many parts of the Quran you will read when it addresses the Prophet. It says, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. You did not throw when you threw, but it is the absolute that threw. So your actions, although you may think they are yours, they're actually the absolute's actions, right? We, from our little understanding, we think that we did this and we did that and we can do this. When it's actual fact, the Quran is quite clear. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Right? In many parts of the Quran, you will see this, that وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Right? وَمَا يَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. That you have no will except if Allah wills. بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ بِمَشِيئَةِ اللَّهِ. Right? The Quran is full of this theme. Okay? So, that's what Rumi is trying to tell you, that this ruh that you are thinking that it's yours, or it's separate existence, or it's something that is, you are identifying with the body or the mind or the ego, all of this is actually false, doesn't exist. This is the reality. Your reality is this, and the reality of this is nafkh. The reality of nafkh is from kun. The reality of kun is amr. The reality of amr is absolute. So in actual fact, if you look at the matter, it's only the source, the beloved, that actually exists. So I'm just going to highlight here. So this, where is the mark? So the beloved is all there is. This doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. And this lover doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. Okay. Now let's get back to Masnavi, and we'll try and see what Rumi is saying. I've got a comment here. Naim is saying, I agree that there is the point where science has lost its way. Yes, true. They are stuck on man is a product of heredity and the environment, but doesn't understand the connection of the ruh. Yes, exactly. The science fails to understand, and because science is based on what they can see and what they can touch and what they can hear and smell, and it's based on senses, right? And I told you that the data collected by your senses is very, very inefficient, right? Because your senses are very inefficient. Your senses cannot grasp things out of their reach. Even your hearing, you can't hear sounds that other animals can hear, other species can hear. So your hearing is very limited. Your sight cannot see in a certain level of light. If it's darkness, you can't see nothing. Your sight is limited. Your nose is limited. Your taste is limited. Your touch is limited. All your senses are limited. So with your limited senses, how can you ever dream of grasping and trying to understand the unlimited, the infinite, right? That which is out of your senses. So that's where science has got lost. Now, let's come back to Masnavi. So take a screenshot of that. And let's go to Masnavi. Right, so we come back here. So this is verse 27. Were I joined with the lip of the one in accord with me, I too, like the reed, would tell all that may be told. So this is what Rumi is saying to you. If I were joined to the lip of the one who is in accord with me, right? I too, like the reed, like the ruh, would tell you all that may be told. But Rumi is saying here that I cannot tell you all that there is to be told, because it is not in your physical world. Whatever I'm going to tell you is not a language that you will understand. It's not in the physical world. You can't hear it, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you cannot touch it. Right? And then he explains this in the next verse, he explains it. Says, whoever is parted from the one who speaks his language becomes dumb. Right? So he's giving an example here. Someone who is parted from those who speaks his language. If you go to another foreign country and you don't speak their language and they don't speak your language, even though you may have 100 songs, you are dumb. You become dumb because you can't speak. You can't make anyone understand anything. So Rumi is saying here that just like that, if I start telling you what the reed wants to tell you, I can't, because you're not going to understand the language and I'm not going to be able to express that language because it's not in the physical world. Now, whoever is parted from the one who speaks his language becomes dumb, though he may have 100 songs. So Rumi is saying, even though I have 100 songs to convey to you, but the thing is that the language of the ruh is not the physical language, it's not the language of the physical world. It's not a language that you can grasp and you can see and you can touch and you can understand. It's just something you must experience. Then he continues to give you context of why you can't grasp the language of the Ruh is because of this thing. When the rose is gone and the garden faded, thou will hear no more the nightingale story. So nightingale in this sentence is the Ruh, right? So when the rose is gone and the garden faded, what he's talking about here is you as a person. When your rose is gone, when your roses are gone, you have no desire to connect with the soul, right? Your heart has no desire. All the roses are gone. There's no passion, right? The garden is faded. Your heart is full of worldly things. There's no flowers. There's no gardens there. There's no, you're not concentrating on your inner self, right? Your heart has become blank and your heart has become like a garden has faded out. It has become with all rotten plants and all unnecessary plants and unnecessary things that you have planted in your heart. So when when the rose is gone from your heart and your garden has faded in your heart, now don't expect the ruh to come and tell you its story and to sing its story for you. So when the rose is gone and the garden faded, you will no more hear the nightingale's story. So the nightingale, the ruh, will not come there and explain to you what it wants to say to you, because your garden has faded. Your heart is black. Your heart is full of unnecessary things. So first, clean that heart of yours, and then prepare the soil of your heart. Plant some good flowers there. Make it lush and green and ready. And then when it is lush and green and you have made tazkiyah to nafs, then the nightingale, the ruh, will start singing for you its story. Okay? And then finally he says that once you understood this, now you can understand this. If you didn't understand that, you can't understand this line. Right? So finally he says that here is the truth, here is the reality for you to understand. The beloved is all. To the Farsi here is Jumla Ma'shuk Ast. So everything. Jumla means everything. In other words, everything that you can see and that you can't see, right? All. Jumla means all, all, everything, nothing, something, all of it, whatever there is, something, nothing, everything. All of it is mashuk only. Jumla mashuk ast. Mashuk is all there is only. Ashik parda hai. This ashik that you're talking about, the lover, the insan, or the person who claims to love Allah, ashik parda hai. This ashik, this lover, is just a veil. It's just a veil. It is the veil between him and the mashuk. So between ashik and mashuk, there's a veil. And that veil is this ashik himself, his ego, his mind, his thoughts, and his fake identities. This is what's standing between him and mashuk, the source, the absolute, Allah. So you yourself, you are the one that is standing between you and your source. So the source is all there is. Everything is only him, right? This ashik is stuck in a fake identity and a fake personality. That is the parda, that is the veil between him and the mashuk. The reality is as following. Zinda mashuk ast. Mashuk is the only living. Ast means only. So mashuk ast zinda. So zinda mashuk ast. Only the mashuk is in reality that exists, that lives, that is living. Right? Ashik murda hai. The lover is a dead thing. The lover is a dead thing. The lover is just a fake illusion. It doesn't really exist, right? So that's what the whole Masnavi is about this. But if you're going to read after this, he's going to explain whatever is mentioned here. So my connection is a bit unstable. So if you can still hear me and you can still see the screen, type a quick yes in the chat. You can hear me and still see my screen. Type a quick yes. Naim says now. Right, let's continue. So Rumi continues and says, if you have understood this, let's go ahead. When love has no care for him, when the lover has no love in him and does not care for the beloved in any way, right? When you have no desire for the beloved and you have no passion and you don't want to meet him, you don't want to know him, you don't care about him, right? So Rumi says when love has no care for him, then that person, he is left as a bird without wings. Alas for him then. So if you got no passion and no love and no care for meeting the source, the beloved, your creator, your source, right? Source love, Allah. When you have no care for him, then you are left like a bird without wings. Now you are a bird, right? But you don't have wings. So imagine a bird without wings is as good as nothing. Then he says, why, oh, destruction for him, alas for him, how bad for him. Now he says, how should I have consciousness? Before or behind? When the light of my beloved is not before me and behind me. So if the nur of Allah is not covering you in front of you and behind you, right? Then how will you have any consciousness? Then your consciousness is fake. If you don't have the nur of Allah covering you, then your consciousness that you are experiencing right now is not actual consciousness. Because how can you have consciousness before or behind when the light of the beloved is not before me and behind? So if you don't have the nur in front and behind you, you actually don't have any consciousness. And if you think you have a consciousness without the nur of Allah, that consciousness is not actually reality, it's just an illusion. Now he says, love wants that this word should be shown forth. See, love, the passion of the ruh, the fire of the reed, right? Ruh, with its love and passion, wants that this word should be shown forth. The ruh wants to show you the reality, wants to reveal to you the reality of the beloved, and wants to connect you back to the source. But the thing is, if the mirror does not reflect, how is that? The mirror here is talking about the heart. If the mirror of your heart does not reflect the nur, then how will the soul be able to show you what it wants to show you? So the ruh is nur, and the ruh wants to reflect on your heart the reality, but your mirror, the mirror of your heart, is got rust and is full of dust and is not clean. How is the light going to shine? How is the light going to shine? Then he says, do you know why? Do you know why the mirror of thy soul reflects nothing? Do you know why the mirror of your soul or your heart cannot see anything, cannot reflect anything? Right? Why you can't see the ruh? Why you can't see the beloved? Why you can't connect with love? Why you can't connect with reality? Why you can't feel spirituality? Why you can't feel the presence, right, of the absolute? It's because the rust is not cleared from its face. The mirror of your heart is rusted, and you have not cleared the rust from its face. But in sad reality, we have considered the rust to be the mirror. We think that this rusted mirror is the mirror itself. When the rust is not the mirror, the mirror is behind the rust. Remove the rust, and then you will see the mirror. But in our illusion, we have become so engrossed in our illusion that we think that the rust is the mirror, right? So that's why Rumi says that, do you know why the mirror of your soul or your heart reflects nothing? Because the rust is not cleared from its face. So go and remove the rust from your heart. Remove all that blackness that is on your heart. Remove all that.
Packages are returned to us as undeliverable. This may be due to many reasons. For example,
Just give me a minute.
Damaged in transit.
Right. So because the rust is not cleared from it. So if you want to hear what the reed is saying, what the ruh wants to show you, and what the ruh wants to reflect to you, clean the mirror of your heart. Clean the mirror of your heart. Make tazkiyah to nafs. Once the heart is cleared of all the rust and it can shine, the nur of Allah will reflect on it, and you will be able to experience reality. That's the end of the song of the reed. This is the first chapter of Masnavi, and this is where it concludes. After this, to explain to you the body, mind, ego, and soul and how they work and what is reality, Maulana Rum brings a story here to make you understand and become familiar with what is going on. So he's going to narrate to you a story, and in that story, see, you must understand why Rumi brings stories. Rumi doesn't bring stories for the sake of entertainment here. He brings the story for you to understand the reason behind the story, the moral of the story. All right. So everything in the story represents a certain reality. Okay. Now, if you're going to just enjoy the story and listen to it for entertainment's sake, you're not going to get the lesson that Rumi wants to convey to you, right? So in our next lesson, we'll go through the story, and everything in the story has a specific meaning and stands for something, right? So there is a king in the story, then there is a handmaiden, a beautiful lady, right? A slave girl. Then there is a what you call a goldsmith in the story, right? And then there is a tabib, a physician in the story. So there are four characters here. So we have the king himself, we have the beautiful girl, the beautiful lady, right? Then we have the goldsmith, and then we have the doctor, right? The spiritual healer or the physician. So these four represent four different things, and I'm not going to reveal to you the plot of the story here, but keep that in mind. And when we go through the story, you will know what exactly is going on. So we will stop the lesson here for today. I'm going to stop the recording.